Rishi Sunak claimed without his economic measures aiding the UK's businesses during the coronavirus crisis, things would be a lot worse for the future of the UK. Following the Office for Budget Responsibility's stark prediction, the UK economy will soon collapse. The coronavirus pandemic might force the UK economy to fall off a cliff edge, potentially plunging 35% between April and July, but should recover by the end of the year, according to the Office for Budget Responsibility (OBR). But responding to the OBR figures, Chancellor Rishi Sunak told BBC News, "Well, the OBR's independent of government, and as they've said, this is just one potential scenario, but I think 3 points. I think firstly, look, it's clear this will have a very significant impact on our economy and economies around the world, and people should know that there's hardship ahead. We won't be able to protect every job or every business, as I've said. The second point, it's clear that the report makes clear that the actions we've taken, unprecedented actions, will help to mitigate the impact of the virus on our economy, and if we hadn't done these things, it would mean that things were a lot worse, for example, the impact on unemployment. And the last point to make is it's clear we must defeat this virus as quickly as possible. That's not a choice between health and economics, that defies common sense. What we need is just to follow the rules, and I am grateful to everyone for doing that over the Easter weekend." Experts at the OBR added that unemployment is expected to hit 3.4 million, around 1 in 10 of the working population without a job if the lockdown lasts 3 months followed by a part. The independent group also added that, on its new prediction, GDP will then jump 25% in the third quarter and a further 20% in the final 3 months of 2020. Public sector net borrowing is also expected to increase by £218 billion this year, compared with March forecasts, hitting £273 billion, or 14% of GDP. The OBR added, that would be the largest single-year deficit since the Second World War. The sharp rise in borrowing this year largely reflects the impact of economic disruption on receipts, with smaller effects from policy measures like the business rates holidays and policy measures that add to public spending, with smaller effects from higher unemployment. Public sector net debt also rises sharply, surpassing 100% of GDP during the year, but ends it at 95% compared with previous forecasters at the OBR were keen to stress this as a single scenario where for now, we have not assumed the shock has lasting economic consequences and should not be taken as a sign of what government policy is likely to be. Businesses are desperate for access to cash to stay afloat, with only a small fraction of the money promised making it into the bank accounts of struggling companies. The OBR added, the net effect of the coronavirus impact and the policy response is likely to be a sharp but largely temporary increase in government borrowing that will leave public sector net debt permanently higher as a share of GDP. However, the longer the period of economic disruption lasts, the more likely it is that the economy's future potential output will be scarred thanks to business failures, cancelled investments and the unemployed becoming If that happens, the budget deficit would reverse less of its temporary rise as economic activity recovers, leaving the government to confront a larger structural deficit and not just higher debt. On unemployment, the OBR predicts that the steep rise of 2.1 million added to the 1.3 million already out of work could be brief. It said, as with GDP, the rise in unemployment is likely to be very fast, as the sharp rise in new claims for UC already attests. Indeed, we might expect almost all the rise to happen within the first month. The organization added that the unemployment numbers could shift again due to uncertainty over whether government interventions to cover salaries